So the Aputure F7 is one of my favorite lights in my kit. I use it pretty much for every project I have, typically as a hair light or rim light. But if you're really in a pinch, you can use it as a key light. But Falcon just sent me their competitor to the F7, which is also called the F7. But this time, it's RGB. So in this video, I'm gonna be comparing the Aputure F7 to the Falcon F7. Pretty much just because Falcon named it the exact same thing, so they're definitely trying to compete with Aputure's version of this light. But from here forward, I'm just gonna be calling them the Falcon and the Aputure, because saying Aputure F7 and the Falcon F7 eventually is gonna get really confusing for me. So as always, first and foremost, build quality. The Falcon is an all metal construction and you can feel it. It is really nice, heavy duty. It has some weight to it. It feels like it's pretty rugged. And on top of it being all metal, the back side of the entire panel is actually magnetic. As for a specific weight, it's about 300 grams. And it only has 1/4 inch mounting point on the bottom of the light panel. So if you wanted to get creative with your mounting solutions, the only real option you have to do that is with the magnetic backside. When it comes to adjusting your settings on light, it has one power on and off / settings adjustment button. And to adjust the brightness or change the colors on the light, there's 2 switches on the side of them underneath the button. Now this light is extremely thin, but even being thin, it still managed to pack a built-in 3000 milliamp battery on the light itself, and it lasts about an hour and 20 minutes for my testing. There's also an LED screen on the back of the light panel, so you can see all your settings, your battery life. As for the Aputure, it's an all plastic build, and you notice it when you pick it up, but it doesn't feel like cheap plastic either. It feels like a higher quality plastic, but at the end of the day, it's still plastic, so you do have to worry about dropping this thing and it shattering on you. Now when it comes to thickness and weight, I would say the Aputure is about twice the thickness of the Falcon. Though with that said, it doesn't have a built-in battery. You still need to have your own Sony NPF batteries to plug into it, and the battery life is really going to depend on whatever battery you're using at the time. But because the Aputure is an all plastic build and it doesn't have a built-in battery, it is shaving about 40 grams from its weight, so it's about 260 grams compared to the Falcon at 300. But on the Aputure, you do get more mounting points, so you get 3/4 inch threads around the light itself, so you can mount it in various different angles. As for adjusting your settings, there's just one power on-off switch and then a knob on the side, so you can adjust your color temperature and brightness, and you click it down to switch between those 2 settings. But just like the Falcon you do get a screen on the back of the panel itself, so you can see what your settings are. You can see your battery life if you have it plugged into a battery. And both lights do have a USB-C port that can be used for powering the light consistently as you're using it. So if you don't want to rely on a battery, or if your battery ran out on the Falcon you can just plug in through the USB-C port and you can power it consistently through that and not have to worry about dying on you. But the Aputure has another power option for you if you do not want to use Sony NPF batteries and you don't have a USB-C cable with you. The Aputure has a D-tap port on the side of the light, so if you have a D-tap enabled battery like a V-mount battery or gold mount battery. So when it comes to build quality, the Falcon definitely wins hands down. Having an all metal construction is always preferable over plastic, but when it comes to mounting solutions and power options, I'd say the Aputure definitely wins. I think having more options is always a little bit better than having something pre-built in that you can't switch out. But with that said, I think in convenience and portability, of course the Falcon wins. It's thinner, it's only about 40 grams heavier, and it's more convenient. You don't have to worry about bringing a battery with you. There's already one in the light. Now both these lights are actually bicolor, so for the Falcon you're gonna be able to go from 256 Kelvin to 9000 Kelvin, whereas on the Aputure you're gonna get 3200 Kelvin all the way up to 9000 Kelvin. That's pretty much where it ends color wise for the Aputure. With the Falcon of course it's RGB, so you can do whatever you want color wise on this light. The Falcon also includes 20 preset lighting effects. They have party effects, fire truck, ambulance, and police sirens. They also have things like candlelight and TV effects. But keep in mind, all those presets on the Falcon are non-adjustable, so you can't adjust the saturation, you can't adjust the brightness, you can't adjust the speed at which the colors change, which is a little unfortunate. I wish at least you can adjust the brightness, because some of the lighting effects are way too bright. But still, it's definitely a plus for the Falcon that it has this included, unlike the Aputure, which doesn't have any lighting effects at all. Now when it comes to one of those crucial parts of lights in general, the brightness, the Aputure wins hands down. The most amount of light you're gonna get out of the Falcon is gonna be at 2500 Kelvin, which is pretty warm. I think most people nowadays prefer a whitish daylight color. But at 2500 Kelvin, you're gonna get about 319 lux at about 1 meter, or about 3 feet roughly. Whereas on the Aputure, the brightest output you're gonna get is at 5600 Kelvin, and it's gonna be 1500 lux at about 1 meter, or again 3 feet. So well over 3 times the amount of light output at the same distance. And both lights can be dimmed down to 1%. So for whatever whatever reason, if you need to dim down the lights as low as possible but still have some sort of light in the scene, you can do that on both of these lights. So if you're someone who doesn't care about having the most portability or having lighting effects or having RGB or any of that, you just want something that gives you the most amount of output in the smallest package, the Aputure definitely wins here. Now, before I tell you my final verdict on which of these lights you should pick up, let me go over the accessories that both these lights include. For the Falcon Eyes, it comes with a nice little case, but it's really only enough room for the LED panel itself. There's no other room in there for any of the other accessories that are included, so you can just keep your light protected, but everything else you're gonna have to figure out where to store that. It comes with slip-on diffusion and slip-on grid. Both of these things are made out of pretty thick rubber. Though I will say the little openings on the back of the rubber do feel thin, and I feel like you can accidentally rip these pretty easily. It comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable for charging and for powering the light, though there is no actual power brick with it included, so you're gonna have to find an old charger for your cell phone somewhere lying around. The Falcon Eyes actually includes two different mounting solutions, so there's one that's definitely meant to be attached to a cage or something like that, because there's no cold shoe mount on it at all. Though it does include a separate cold shoe mount, but it's pretty much just those cheap cold shoe adapters you can find on Amazon in packs of like 10 for $5. And there's also a sticker included that gives you a brief description of each of the 20 lighting effects that you can stick onto the back of the light if you want to. The Aputure, on the other hand, also includes a nice carrying case, but this carrying case can actually include all the accessories that come with the light, so you don't have to worry about storing them in separate places. And I will say the bag is definitely far more premium than the bag that comes with the Falcon Eyes. It's a little thicker, has far more padding. The Aputure doesn't include a grid with it, but it does include two diffusion panels. These things are just plastic, they slip into the front of the light. But again, they're cheap, they're flimsy. You can bend them and kind of ruin them pretty quickly. The Aputure also includes a USB-C to USB-A cable, but again, there's no power brick with it, so you're gonna have to find an old cell phone charger somewhere out there to use this light. Though the Aputure does include a very nice, very high quality ball head that you can slide straight into the hot shoe of your camera. Honestly, I wish Aputure sold the ball head separately as well, because I really want more of these ball heads in my kit. These things are super high quality. So when it comes to accessories, I think the Aputure definitely wins here. It's a little close on this category because both of them come with pretty nice accessories. It's just that the Aputure bag is far nicer, it's far better built. That ball head is amazing. Now finally, let's move on to price. The Falcon Eyes F7 comes in about $140, whereas the Aputure F7 comes in about $98. So for roughly that extra $40, is the Falcon Eyes F7 worth picking up over the Aputure F7? Definitely, if you're someone who needs RGB or just wants RGB because it's fun. If you're someone who wants the most portable light ever, you want that built-in battery, you don't have to carry extra batteries with you, you don't have to worry about anything like that. If you're someone who likes or needs lighting effects, like if you're working on a student short film, then yes, I think the Falcon Eyes F7 is absolutely worth picking up. I'm happy to have it in my kit now. I'm gonna be using it for a lot more things. I'm actually using it right now to light my background. I use these two cheap lights to light the background of my studio, and I had filters on them, and it was just kind of a hassle to use. But now with this light, I don't have to use any filters at all. I don't even have to worry about plugging it in. I just leave it right, literally directly behind me, set it to whatever color I want, and the entire background is now that color. So there's definitely uses for the Falcon Eyes F7, even though you're not gonna get the most amount of output, even though the accessories aren't as good as the Aputure, even though there's all these little things where the Aputure is clearly winning. I think having the built-in battery, having the RGB lighting, having those 20 presets in there is enough for me to recommend it, even for the $40 extra over the Aputure F7, for people out there who are looking for a more convenient and creative light in their workflow. I think if you're someone who's looking for just pure output, definitely pick up the Aputure F7. It's absolutely gonna be a beast for you. It is a great little light, and I'm still happy I own it. I'm still gonna use it. I'm using it right now. That's what's lighting my hair light. Again, I use this thing for hair lights and room lights all the time. So I don't think you can really go wrong with either light. It's more of what you're using it for. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. If you own the Aputure, do you think it's worth picking up the Falcon Eyes? Do you like the Aputure? Is there something missing from the Aputure, like RGB, that you wish it had? Or if you own the Falcon Eyes, do you think it's even worth picking up the Aputure after the fact to get that brighter output? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know all your ramblings down below. And if you watched this video to the end here, leave me 3 light bulb emojis down below. And if you liked the video, please consider subscribing. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. But as always, my name is Joshua Munoz. Stay sexy, and I'll see you sometime.